Welcome to this somehow way back in history. We are talking about initiative, mainly performed by Torsten, but we would like to make the data available through an infrastructure that is built in a large consortium called the National Research Data Consortium in Germany. And actually, this is what we are going to present to you. Some historical data in the beginning of the computer age.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction. Let us take you about 4 decades back into the 1980s. To most people, computers in that time existed only in science fiction. And with low prices, they increasingly permeated both workplaces and homes, giving rise to a distinct home computer culture. This new digital era was also accompanied by numerous computer magazines, most in print. It was very common that these print magazines were used to circulate computer programs. What you see, this had to be typed in manually. Good luck with that. But people had computers, so they invented magazines, not printed on paper, but running on computers and distributed on magnetic data storage, which you can see here, such as floppy disks, which could also contain software. And this initiated the evolution of disk magazines, also called Diskmags or disk zines, and they evolved as vehicles for distributing articles, applications, games, digital artwork, and they were available at typical newspaper stands, like for 10 euros, $10, whatever. They existed in many countries. And let me show you a very quick setup so that you know what I'm talking about. Oh, stop. Okay. So what you need to read a disk magazine, you need a computer. This is a Commodore 64. You need a floppy drive. You need cables, more cables. You need to connect everything correctly. This takes time, of course. You need a TV, and also use a modern one. You have a converter. You need, of course, a floppy disk, which is then to be inserted into the drive. Then you need to type in some magic words to start and to load the program. And if you are very lucky, it was possible to, maybe we should hear some music. Actually, there's some music playing. Maybe maybe
you might be able to hear it, but I don't know.
I see. Okay. Maybe and I did it wrong sharing the. Yeah, I can maybe correct it. We should actually. That's it. Ton freigeben. Okay. Sorry. This is 64 from that era. That's the spacebar. Go on. That was just an intro. Like a splash screen. Now wait again. Takes time. Takes more time. You get a coffee. And when the disk maker is loaded, you can choose a category, read the articles, and some background music is playing. Nice. Very nice setup. And about the contents of disk magazines. You have, by the way, the video, I have to give the video credits. That was a video produced by Klaus Rettinghaus, who had also the idea to do actually research on disk magazines. And you have seen that these magazines are multimedia products. They contain navigation, background music. And my point is actually not to make you nostalgic or make you laugh about technology of 40 years ago, which is okay, of course. But I want to emphasize that This era had its very own understanding of digital culture, what digitality actually is. And we are looking at a historical concept of digitality. And it's a great challenge to preserve this setting. Hardware and software deteriorate. We have no access to the text, to the images, and they are in all completely different formats. Okay, so let's have a look at what this actually contains. There are articles like in a paper magazine, for example, news and reviews on hardware and software and programming tutorials. There was also content related to the hacking and cracking scene, and it also contained a lot of community-created content, and of course, Diskmags were also copied and given to friends. It was also discussed in some libraries whether disk magazines would be the future form of computer journals. It was in '86. And then the internet came and said, hold my beer. And yeah, however, disk magazines were still important communication platforms for the early computer culture in the 80s and 90s. They are a part of one digital heritage of the era, and which has been inaccessible far until today. To facilitate research, we began to build up a catalog last year. We were harvesting information on Diskmags from existing internet communities. We had assumed to find about 200 or 300 Diskmags worldwide. We were mistaken. The numbers increased to 2,500. And I believe that there is more to be uncovered. When I made the estimation, my perspective was limited to the commercial disk magazines, which you could buy actually. And you can see the commercial disk magazines here on the left until about 87, 88. And I totally underestimated the quantity of community-created magazines from the late 1980s on. It was a bit shady area of hackers, crackers, software pirates that initiated a scene of multimedia artwork, which is then called the demo scene. So it's about multimedia artwork and showing you programming skills, what you can do with a computer and so on. And this produced numerous magazines which are not visible to researchers yet. Some disk magazines still exist until today, much in contrast to the commercial ones. So practically everything you see still here in the 20s and ongoing is community-created content. You can also see that Diskmags were created on various systems that came onto the market. You can see that, for example, this one here, the brown graph in ZX Spectrum magazines. It's actually a system which is quite old. But in the 90s, Western Europe sold its computers to Eastern European countries. And on these second-hand computers, they used new Diskmags on the older machines, which is quite interesting. So you have a computer migration, which induces content creation. Yeah, let me give you some examples very quickly. There's a soft disk for Apple II, the first magazines published on floppy disk ever. You can find it in the Library of Congress. This is Input 64 for the Commodore 64. It was published by Heise as publisher, which is still active today in Germany. Input is acronym for Information, Use, Program, Entertainment, and Tips. This is interesting, Sex and Crime, a good example for community-created magazines. And is it possible to attach messages to it in the mailbox by pressing 0 before making a copy for your friends? Next one. This is a program from 1991 that allows you to create your own Diskmag. Yeah, so everybody wanted to create a Diskmags, so they made a framework for making Diskmags. And this beautiful Maggie, a community-created Diskazine for Atari ST, is focused on electronic literature, and the image shows a poem on disk magazines. Next one, Bergmerk is a community magazine for Amstrad. It was bilingual and contained contributions from Ireland, England, and Germany. This is Warp for Atari ST, a zine for Star Trek fans. It had a gamified menu to read an article, move the commander to the respective console. And these two are examples for ZX Spectrum magazines in Russian. The content was much more political than in Western magazines. The first one is from Russia, while the second one is actually from Ukraine. And the last one, Digital Talk. This is a Diskmag for the Commodore 64 that exists until today. And this is the 30 years anniversary issue. Okay, so our catalog. It is currently available online at the domain diskmags.de. It's based on semantic media wiki technology. If anybody wants to contribute, we can set up an account. You can search the whole category by various categories, or you can browse in sub-collections which contain manually curated data, which are a bit better than the harvested data. Currently, we have I think, yes, two curated sub-collections, which is German language Diskmags, identifiable by the Pritzel, and East Central European Diskmags, which is a new sub-collection finished last night. Then further, we also extracted some text from these magazines as far as possible. So in theory, you can now full text search contents. It's going to be included into the German Text Plus research infrastructure, for text-based research. It's a part of a large-scale international infrastructure program for preserving research data from practically all subjects. Andreas can tell you a bit more about that later if you want. And due to copyright issues, you will only find single mentions of words and no complete articles, but we can provide articles on request, of course, for your research. So to conclude, the catalog and the text collections are ongoing endeavors. Let me just close with some perspectives, what we want to achieve in the next, I don't know, 10 years. So first, we want to connect our data to a library catalog and to existing collections and to originals, if possible. Second, we want more content to reflect other home computer communities, like in Japan, in India, in South America, and other regions. And we want also to motivate citizens and student creators, curators to contribute to the data quality of the catalog. We also think of automatic classification description methods based on the full text, which is available to us. And yeah, in the end, we hope that this project contributes to shed a bit of light to the heritage of an early digital era, which is, for my feeling, too valuable to be just disbanded as old technology, but needs to be recognized as cultural heritage. Thank you.